is this really it? Is this really what life is all about? It's supposed to be this difficult? It's supposed to be so annoying? Is this how life is truly supposed to be? You're supposed to be miserable, stressed out about money for the rest of your life, watching all these other people having their dreams come true, and deep down inside you're thinking to yourself, can I ever be like that person? Am I really that terrible? Am I really that horrible at what I do? Is that really, really what it is?
Some people tend to blame others for their mistakes. Now, you can't control what others around you do, but it's in your own best self-interest that you stay on top of things, especially if it's going to affect your future. Be responsible for the things that affect you.
Some of y'all so caught up on the game that you don't get it. It is in practicing. It is in eating right. It is in making good decisions that you look a certain way. It is how you practice. It is what you do that makes you look like you look. It is the process of the grind that shapes you and forms you. It's not the game.
It makes sense unless you change your pattern, unless you change the way you're thinking, unless you change your behavior, you're going to continue to produce the results in your life. See, all of us are winners, but some of us are producing results that we don't want. And so all you have to do is look at your game plan, look at your strategy. How is it that you have been being? What is it that you've been doing to produce this? So you're the director, you're the producer, you're writing the script, you're the star of your life. And as you begin to look at your life, you can decide whether or not it's a smash or whether or not it's a flop. That's in your hands. Look at your life, look at where you want to go. Don't worry about your circumstances. Don't worry about your age. So instead of people living in fear, feeling stressed out, feeling powerless, feeling like victims, I think it should be a time that we need to begin to look at ways that we can become an active force in our own lives. Look at ways when we can decide to take charge of our own destiny. Look at ways when we can decide to design a life of substance and begin to truly live our dreams.
However much money you make, whatever kind of life you have, that's yours. And so when I speak to you, I speak from the pain of taking 12 years to get a 4-year degree. I speak to you as a failure who had to get back up every single doggone time and say, brush it off and keep going. And so I've been through what you've been through, and I got up and I kept going.
When you change, when you get better, it'll get better. Don't put it on someone else. Hope that someone else will change it for you. It is so important to study the majors. Have you ever noticed that some people don't do well because they major in minor things? Whatever you do, check at the end of the week, the end of the year, and make sure you're not spending major time on minor things. Otherwise, you will wind up with a below-average life. Now, before I get to the 4 major lessons, here are 2 phrases to consider. First, life and business are like the changing seasons. That's one of the best ways to illustrate life. It's like the seasons that change. Frank Sinatra sings, life is like the seasons. Here's the second phrase. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. Now, with those 2 key phrases in mind, here are the 4 major lessons in life to learn. The first is, learn how to handle the winters. They come right after fall with regularity. Some are long, some are short. Some are difficult, some are easy. But they always come right after fall. Remember, it isn't going to change. Now, there are all kinds of winters, right? The winter when you can't figure it out. The winter when it all goes smash. Wintertime, we call it the winters of your life. One writer called it the winter of discontent. The winter when it turns upside down, when it all goes wrong. There are economic winters, social winters, personal winters, when your heart is smashed into 1,000 pieces. Wintertime, disappointments. Disappointment is common to us all. So learn how to handle the winters. You must learn how to handle the nights. They come right after days. You must learn how to handle difficulty. It always comes after opportunity. You must learn to handle recessions. They come right after expansions. It isn't going to change.
I think a tremendous amount of what you might regard as shadow integration, which in the parlance of behavioral psychologists would be something like assertiveness training, right? It's training in how to stand up for yourself and for your, let's say, for your better self, which would be the self that you could use productively over a medium to long period of time that would be of use to you, but also of use to people around you. So it's a self that's bounded by the necessity of taking care of yourself, but also simultaneously taking care of the people around you. I think that the simplest way to start that work is to consult your resentment. You know, it's easy to become bitter about life and to become angry because, of course, life is difficult and it's full of disappointments, and people are also subject to betrayal on the part of themselves and on the part of people that hypothetically care for them. And so it's easy to get bitter and to be resentful. And resentment is a very useful emotion, even though I think it's one of the most damaging emotions if it's not dealt with properly. So if you're resentful, it basically means only one of two things. It either means you should grow up and quit whining and get on with your life, or it means that you're being subject to tyrannical forces of one form or another, maybe emanating from you, maybe a consequence of the natural environment, maybe a consequence of society. You're being subject to tyrannical forces and you're not putting your own best interests forward, like in that broader sense that I described. And I don't mean your selfish, narrow interests that only serve the purposes of instantaneous gratification. I mean your own best interests in terms of developing your character over the span of your life. If you're resentful, it either means that you're immature and that you should grow the hell up. And so you need to figure out how much of your resentment is that.
You and I both know that God's gift to us is our potential, and our gift back to Him is what we do with our potential. Perhaps the greatest insult that we can ever give to our Creator is to be a slacker, to somehow have these gifts and have these opportunities and have this potential and do nothing with it. I would suggest today that you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. He created you for greatness. Now, that's how He created you. You determine how great you become. He has already given you the potential, and He's already given you the opportunity. Your response? Either seize the moment in the day and become all that you possibly can be, or slack in the moment and basically rest and just let things come to you. I encourage you on Minute with Maxwell. Take the potential that you have been given as a gift. And the way to say thanks to that gift is by giving your life your very best.
There's often a competing goal in terms of what you want in the short term versus what you want in the long term. And one of the coolest quotes I've ever heard in my life is, don't sell out what you want most for what you want right now. And I think that is a quote to live by right there. So that's the big one, is really making sure that you are focused and excited about what it is that you want long term. And even just having a phrase that you can say to yourself about what it is that you want most, I think would be hugely beneficial. So often people don't have that level of clarity. So when we're talking about procrastination, just the raw desire to actually see something through to the end is going to be critically important.